up, guys? Time to show off a new colored Kraken build. This is pretty much done in complete dual cerakote. You've got Dragon's Breath orange and just a nice, what would we call that, matte? I mean, it shines when it gets in the light, but I think it's more of a matte black. Honestly, when you look at certain colors like black and silver, there is a myriad of colors. And sometimes, unless you spray them all out and set them side by side, you'd never know there's a difference. But more of a matte black. So we've got the Kraken background done in the Dragon's Breath with the with the Kraken itself that's raised in that matte black. Milled one-piece bezel is done in dual, as well as the case and the band. You can see on the sides of the case, done in that black. The crown head is done in black, whereas the crown is done in that orange. Engineered band is done that way, but the sides are done in black. And whenever you're sizing this, find the recessed area. That's the side you're going to punch it down, and you're going to put it back through with that tapered end in first, and tap it back in. The side that kind of looks like it's a flathead is just where the two pieces of metal folded over on itself are kind of like this, and they've got a little bit of a flare out, kind of like my fingers are, and that's what kind of holds it. So you just find that and tap it down. You've got arrows in there and tells you which way to tap it to get it out, and on the other side it's obviously opposite. You find that recessed area, and that's what you punch down through. Double lock clasp is done double as well. Black across here, everything else done in the orange and then lasered through. So these aren't done in black, it's just lasered through to show that. Now the case back is a milled case back. It's done solely in the orange, and then we lasered it off with some nice intensity to give it a little bit of an iridescent look. And the case back ring is done in solid black. So outside of those two things, everything is done in some form of dual overlap. How we do the dial and the bezel is whatever we want the lower area to be, that is the second color that we apply. Everything that's raised is the first color that we apply. So the Kraken itself done in black, so the whole dial is done in black and baked. Then we overlay the orange. We do not bake it. We wipe off all of the raised areas to expose the black that's under it before we bake it in. So wipe all that off once it's all gone, then bake that. And you have to make sure that your recessed areas are low enough to accept 2 cerakotes. Otherwise, you're not going to have any of that separation for us to remove one layer. So same thing done on the bezel. Everything done in black, so the whole thing is black. Then we do orange. So the orange is getting on top of all these raised items here. We got to knock it off before we bake it. So the black is set, and then we wipe all that off, make sure it's all off, and then bake to seal in the orange. Also, we did some pilot hands on here. I didn't want to put the orange right over top of this. I thought that would kind of look cool and obviously stand out, but I had a set of pilot hands that are done in black with the orange, so I thought those would look way cooler. And then the white loom in there kind of helps actually show you what's going on. You can actually tell what time it is. Drilled out indices, and then those will loom at night. So to kind of show off this just a little bit. There you go. That's the build. Bezel on this is on extra tight. These bezels, the tension rings that they come with, are tight alone, but then getting it to snap onto a cerakoted case makes it even tougher, and then you've got that friction as they rub against each other to make it even tighter. So you can turn it left, You can turn it right, but it is on there extra tight. These are non-click bezels. These are tension bezels. And I just like to put as much tension as I can on them to keep them where they're at. Automatic mechanical, you've got a rotor in the back, so you can wind it, you can wear it, you can move it all around. But if it's dead or you're not going to be very active, make sure you wind it just a little bit before you put it on. Otherwise, you will lose time throughout the day. How you do that is you back the crown off the threads until you hear it and feel it clicking. At that point, you can wind, and a wind is a turn that way. Turning it towards you doesn't wind it, but it is a lot easier to keep your finger spacing and just go back and forth, because I start threading it back on if I go in one direction. And if you start doing that, you can just back it right off and pull a little tension out and keep going. Now with this cerakote that's inside here, it does make it a little bit tougher, and over time that's going to go away as that cerakote wears thinner. We try and make it to where we don't get any on the threads itself, to where there's no impact there. But I did hit it with a tiny bit of gun oil to make sure. So once you're good with your winding, 5 seconds of that is pretty good. If you do it for another 5 seconds, you're going to max out your 31-hour power reserve on it. You get about 36 hours, but it's called a 31+ hour power reserve. I get about 36 when I wind them up and set them down to make sure they're running the next day, which is what I'll do before I actually send this out, because I just finished it. Just to make sure that the hands aren't touching. I know they're not. The hands aren't dragging on the dial. I know they're not. That the movement is solid, which I don't know that. You assume that, but 1 out of 100 needs oiled or has an issue. So I do that just in case. When you're happy with your winding, you're going to pull it to the one and only click. And although you have crown guards here, it's really hard to pull it that way. So pull it that way. Okay, Google, what time is it? 1:15 p.m. So when you're good, you're going to push it over, get it out of that time setting, and then wind it down. And that is the build. As with every build, you're going to get matching beads. Now we match them as closely as possible. That's pretty spot on, but you don't get that many options with orange. So it's a marbled orange. This is going to come in a black BVW Kraken box. This will come with watch cleaner. This is a foamer that's good on all glass and metal, which is this watch as a whole. Non-streaking, non-toxic, non-residue, as well as a microfiber. And then it will also come with some fine scratch remover, which I need to grab a new one of these because this, I think I'm just rubbing this off slowly. Fine scratch remover. There you can see it. This is Novus 2 from Amazon, just repackaged. It is for your acrylic glass because you can scratch it. So this is like a poly watch. If you scratch it, you're going to put a tiny, tiny bit of this on it, and you're going to buff it out using your color-matched microfiber. If the scratch is up and down, just go back and forth, filling that scratch, haze it out, haze it and buff it out. It should be gone. If it's not gone, wait a little bit, let that solidify, and come back and revisit it. So if you take a gouge out of that, you're kind of rebuilding it. Now, if you gouge it real deep, you might have to send it back to me and me replace the glass for you. But surface scratches, anything like that, this will come right out. Now, you don't want to scratch your cerakote. It's hardened, but you can knock it completely off. And if you start exposing the silver that's under there, you might just either having it re-cerakoted, taking the whole watch apart and re-cerakoting it would not be cheap or easy. But if you just did it on the band, I could just do a whole new band for you or something like that. But that said, try not to do it. It's kind of like you're wearing a car on your wrist, so you wouldn't rub your car on a wall. So try not to rub this on a wall. But, most impacts should be perfectly fine. It is more of the abrasion style that would be more detrimental, I guess, which would probably happen more often. So just be a little bit more careful with that. It is applied and it is baked on at 400 degrees, and it's typically fairly abrasion resistant. But if you rub that against concrete or something like that, you are definitely going to rub some stuff off. So that is the build. If it's going to you, congrats. I hope you love it. Is that a burn? Hope you love it. And if you want me to build you something custom and unique, reach out and I'll see what I can do. And if you want to continue to see videos like this, like and subscribe as I put them up all the time. Thanks, guys.